Hey, I'm Annalise, Atlas Anatomy, and I wanted to give my thoughts and opinions on being on the Whatever podcast. So, when I first got there, I was obviously super nervous. I don't really hang out with people that I don't know. Especially have to sit with them for 5 hours and hold a conversation. Like, that's really intense for me, but it's something that I would like to feel more comfortable doing, which is a big reason why I did this podcast in general. So I kind of had an idea on the podcast before I went in, and this was just like my opinion, like my own judgments, if you will. I thought it was a super conservative podcast, which I'm not 100% sure if that's true, but oh my god, I'm bleeding. I thought it was like a super conservative podcast. I knew there was some misogyny in there, and I felt like that they just bring on OF girls to try to embarrass them, and so I kind of liked that challenge, like that idea. Because I really have nothing to hide, in my opinion, and I'm not really ashamed of what I do, so I wanted to see like what that would look like going onto their show to be somebody who feels that way. And I will say, I feel like because I wasn't ashamed and was pretty reasonable, they definitely like did not want to call on me. So one of their protocols, like they said, the etiquette before the show started is like people tend to talk over one another. And so if you have something you want to say or something you want to add, that you should kind of just like wave. And I took communication classes, so to me that was totally understandable considering there's like 10 people there. And I consider myself to be a pretty polite person, and so I followed the rules. We talked about what the rules were. I followed them. Did it do me any good? No, it kind of didn't, because they didn't really follow their own rules. So I think if I ever did it again, like, I would just say what I was thinking in that moment. So I guess if you go on to the show and you have something to say, I mean, try to wait till the person is done talking, but just interject yourself, because they're not going to call on you unless maybe they think that they can embarrass you. So there's that. But that's just me being a little, like, I could give them the benefit of the doubt that maybe that wasn't it either, but that is just kind of how I felt. I was a little bit disappointed in Brian. I thought he was going to be a little bit more goofy. Like, I knew he was kind of a dick because I've watched some of the episodes, but I thought he would have more of like a sense of humor, and it came out more towards the end, but he did seem like really uptight, and that was a little bit of a disappointment because it is a dating podcast, and from what I saw, like, after it, he was like a prank channel that did hella funny shit. So like the fact that he can't fucking lighten up is a little bit disappointing, but I will say he did seem like maybe he had some like health stuff going on, or maybe he wasn't feeling good, could potentially have been hungover. Do I know his life? No, I don't. He just seemed really like shaky, not feeling well, and agitated. So maybe I just caught him on an off day. Let's see. Yeah, I feel a little bit conflicted about the Chase guy. Part of me feels that like, yes, he is genuine, but a piece of me feels like he's not. Like, I have like a weird like gut thing going on about him, that he may not be out here for the greater good. Like, I don't know, but that's just me. I read their comments, and there was somebody that had comment in their comments too that felt like I was a liar. So, I mean, I could totally be wrong about Chase, but there was just something that I was just like, I don't know. But I did find him to be blah, blah, blah. I did find him to be really interesting, and I wish I could have picked apart his brain more, but the thing that was really lame about fucking Brian is that I would let Chase get out everything he wanted to get out to me, and then when I was like on to something to kind of like throw back, because that's how conversation works, like, right? One person is you throw the ball to that person, they're chatting, they throw the ball to you chat, and I felt like every time it was my turn to freaking elaborate on what Chase had just said, Brian's like, okay, enough of this, enough of that, and like cut it off. So that was a little bit fucking annoying. I don't have a whole lot to say on Andrew. I think he has a pretty good head on his shoulders. I think he definitely practices what he preaches, which is pretty cool and kind of rare. He does seem like a genuine dude with a good heart. And so that was really refreshing. I think something that would be cool to see from Andrew is like, I know that he pulls a lot of examples out of the Bible. It would be interesting if he could relate those examples to like why they're important for average people, and maybe like explain the psychology of why those things are like important. I don't know. My mouth gets so dry. Maybe kind of like a Jordan Peterson thing, because Jordan Peterson likes to like quote a lot of like, I don't know, he quotes a lot of Bible verses. He's more on the Catholic side, but he quotes a lot of Bible verses, but he talks about like how that relates to real life and like the kind of the psychology behind it, and like the psychology behind it, and how that like can be helpful to people in their relationships or whatever, if that makes sense. So it'd be cool to see like Andrew lean into some real life examples when using scripture. I think it would be easier for people to like relate to the scripture and understand really what it means. I loved all of the women. I thought that they were all wonderful, and I was so nervous about the women being mean for whatever reason. And I don't know what it was like about Air Force Amy and Annie, but talking to them before the show made me feel so much like safer going into it. Like I felt more comfortable, even though I was still just super nervous. So when I'm nervous, not only do I stutter, I'll stutter over my words and thoughts. I'll sweat, which was happening, but it was really hot in there. Like I didn't want to have to take off my shirt. I thought by wearing a short sleeve crop top, I was going to be good, but I fucking was not, and I was nervous, sweating like a motherfucker. So I had to go take off my shirt like an hour in, and I was low-key kind of embarrassed about that, but I'm a fucking human, so like, I'm sure somebody could relate to that. It really doesn't fucking matter, like, whatever. And my stomach gets upset when I'm nervous, so like, having the women there that were there really eased some of that. I felt like the younger girls had really good shoulders on their head. They were willing to, like, especially, I don't want to call her the blonde one, but I'm blanking her name right now, which I'm really disappointed about that. I'm so sorry. But the blonde girl that was sitting next to me, I felt like she was willing to be like vulnerable and pretty reasonable. And so I don't know, I just felt like we had a really good group of women, and maybe that might have frustrated Brian, because I I'm not sure, but it seems like the goal of his show is to get people like wild up and heated. He's almost like he's like the runner of the Bad Girls show, except for it's like guys against girls instead of like girls against girls. I don't know. Um yeah, I don't know. I did have some things in the comments like where I was trying to banter back and forth with somebody about some topics, and I'm not 100% sure if the people who run the Whatever podcast did delete my freaking comments, but if they did, that's kind of just like shady. But I am not 100% sure that they did. It could be like a technical error with like my computer or my phone or something. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt there. But like somebody in the comments was trying to tell me that my body count wasn't low, and I'll say like I just want to validate that for him. Like for me, I feel like it's low for me, and I'm comparing to like other people in my life that I know, but he's probably comparing to other people in his life that he knows, and so mine is probably high. Like I understand that. So that's totally fine. You can think I have a high body count. That's okay. Whatever. Because me personally, I don't think that it should matter. And the reason why I don't think that it should matter, and although I felt like Chase during the podcast made some good points about why he thinks it would matter, now that I've like thought about that more and digested it after the show, in my opinion, it still doesn't matter. So it's like it can matter to him because he thinks like the divorce rate, yada yada yada, successful marriage depends on your body count. I would love to see where Chase gets all of his studies. I really would. And I want to know how he vets his statistics that he gets, because yeah, anyways. So the reason why I don't think that it matters is because if you meet somebody and you fall in love with them and you really believe that they're the one for you, like you already have all those feelings for them, they're the one, plain and simple. I don't think that body count and stuff should matter. Like, and the reason why I think that is because I think it's trivial. I think the stuff that people want to say for modern day dating, for the most part, like this younger crowd that even I'm in, I guess, I didn't realize that, but they like the things that they put as priority for like what they're looking for in a person, I think is actually just really trivial, and it's not getting to the core issues. And I think the core issue is like you're asking the wrong questions. I really think that when you're looking for somebody or you're meeting people and you want to like weed through them to see if you're compatible or not, I think that you should just talk about your core values. So like share with them your core values and then find out what their core values are. And if those don't align, then it's probably not going to work out. So, and I could see somebody arguing and being like, well, one of my core values would be like a low body count. I would challenge you to think deeper than that. Is it a low body count, or is it what you think is going on with the person who has the high body count? Like what that issue is, and then find out what like the opposite of the issue would be. So like somebody who doesn't have that issue, what that trait would be. And I would argue that that is actually your core value and not necessarily the fucking dumb number. So yeah, I don't know. I just think that people are really just so disconnected from one another, and we don't really give people any grace anymore. As I'm like saying a bunch of shit about Brian. I think Brian's cool. Like, he does remind me of one of my ex best guy friends. We're not friends anymore. But he reminds me of that guy friend, and I was best friends with that guy forever. I think Brian's funny. I watched some of his older content. I really wish he would just like stick to his beliefs, of course, but just like lighten up a bit. I don't know. But that's me giving him some grace, so whatever. Trying to think of what else to address. The religious stuff was interesting. I like to talk about religious stuff. I think Chase is wrong when he says that there's like the Buddhism this way to what they think is true, the Christians this way, Catholics this way, Jewish people this way. But everyone's wrong besides the Christians. So like if you don't follow the Christian way, you're not going to get into heaven. And I get it. That's like what Christians believe. So like I guess I can understand him thinking that. But I don't believe that. And then Brian wants to say like those are leaning towards secular beliefs. I really don't know what that means. I'm not even going to look it up right now. Like from the context, I think it means like secular as in what religion has evolved into in today's day and age. But if that is the case, I would argue that I don't know if Christians actually believe in the Old Testament and the New Testament. So I'd need to know that. But like, wouldn't you argue that the Old Testament and the New Testament, like that's like the evolution of it? So things do change a little bit. I don't get it. And I don't know if other people believe this, but I really think that all the religions that are out there, for the most part, obviously not Satanism, I don't think, but like the one thing that they all have in common is that they believe in like a higher power for the most part, and that you just need to do the best you can and always be trying to do the next right thing, and that you're going to mess up, but just try to correct it and be aware and keep doing the next right thing and hold a lot of love in your heart and spread love and be generous and kind. Like that's pretty much what all of the religions are saying across the board. So like to say that people who aim for that are doing it wrong and that they're going to be like doomed to fucking hell just fucking blows my mind. Also, if God is who we say he is, people who haven't heard of the Bible, who haven't accepted Jesus in their heart because they live deep in the fucking rainforest, I don't fucking know, why would those people be doomed to hell? I just don't believe that. Our God is a loving God. Like, he's a father. If you had never heard of him, why would he send you to burning, flesh-eating hell? Like, like, are you okay? And, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm getting over to the Catholicism side now and like the Jordan Peterson example, but something I really like about Jordan Peterson is that he shares the stories from the Bible, and he takes on this concept that like the Bible is more of, this is not his words, this is my words, the Bible is more of like a fairy tale. Okay, so what are like folklore? Like, and what is that? So folklore or fairy tale is like, it's a made up story to teach a value or a lesson. Sorry. And I really believe, for the most part, that like that is technically what the Bible is and what it was designed for. It's not like verbatim exactly what was happening. Like, I really think that these are stories that were written for you to find the moral of the story, not to be taken like super literally. So I think people who take the Bible like super literally are kind of dumb. I hate to say it like that. I was gonna say ignorant, but it's just like, it's just not like in-depth conscious thinking. Like, and it doesn't take that much depth to see that. I don't know. I really don't know. That's just my opinion. Maybe that's a hot take. I kind of don't think that it is. I think that they're wrong about a lot of guys, like the majority of people not wanting to be with people because of the reasons that they're saying, like whether that they had done sex work or in sex work, I think are two different things. So I could see the majority of people potentially not wanting to be with somebody who's currently in sex work because it's really hard. I can understand how it could be really triggering and difficult. But I don't think the majority of people, if they met someone that they genuinely liked, would care if you were an ex-sex worker. I really don't think that if they are secure within themselves, that would really be that big. And not like, they don't have to be like, they could still have their own insecurities. And I think that a lot of people would be okay with like, oh, you were a stripper for a little bit. Maybe the prostitution thing would be harder because there's still a lot of stigma around that. But I think with the right people, if that's not your lifestyle anymore, you can have those like deep conversations. And I think that there is grace to be found. Do I think it's harder if you're currently in it? I do. I've not had any success at dating somebody while being a sex worker. But that's just me. That's just my story. I do know a lot of sex workers who do have super successful relationships, so that's not to go unnoted. Trying to think of other things that were interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I was a little bit like I was a little bit underwhelmed. Like, I thought there was going to be a lot more back and forth and like kind of like table talk, like you're just sitting there, like almost when you're in a group of friends and the conversation just keeps like bouncing over here to there, like you're staying on topic, but it's like a flow that's happening. This was very like, which I was not expecting and made it quite boring. I don't know. I think that podcast is a great opportunity to do a lot of things, and I get that they need a certain amount of drama to get their views and whatnot. I think that they could be more strategic about it to where you can have some heat and some like some fiery topics and hot takes while still doing something for the greater good, or like doing like here's something else that I kind of had an issue with, is that there was a lot of like problems. This is like a pet peeve of mine and with anybody, when people bring up problems and they don't have a real solution, that drives me fucking crazy. And there was just like, there's a problem with this, there's a problem with women, there's a problem with fathers, there's problems with sex workers, there's problems, like, it was like, what is your solution besides just saying, come to Jesus? Like, I get it. Come to Jesus. Okay, beautiful. That's your agenda. That's awesome. You need to give a little bit more than that. Like, what are you going to learn maybe when you come to Jesus? What is he going, like, what do you feel like he could potentially could teach you? Or, like, come on. There's got to be, like, solutions that are a little bit, I don't want to say better. That's the wrong word. There has to be a way that you can elaborate more on what your opinion thinks these solutions would be without just stamping it with a just go to Jesus. End of discussion, end of story. Like, what? You're not getting anywhere. You just want to complain and say that there's all these fucking problems. That drives me nuts. I like solutions. Let's talk about the problems, but let's talk about reasonable solutions. I don't know. I think Air Force Amy's a badass. I love what she's doing. Annie, I love what she's doing. She seems really cool. Gigi seems like she has a really good heart, you know, and so do the two other girls. I think that that's something that guys can really miss out on, I guess, with people who do the kind of work that we do. Just kind of like what Amy was saying, like, for the most part, you know, there are the couple rotten eggs, but for the most part, like, the people who do what we do, we're not very judgmental people. We can't be, right? Kind of like what Amy said. We have really fucking big hearts. A lot of us, like, Brian and all of them are calling it trauma dumping, and I get it, like, but there's like a simple truth to that. It's like people who end up in our line of work, men and women who end up in our line of work, we've had, yes, a rocky past. I would argue that a lot of people have had a rocky past and upbringing, but we're talking specifically to sex workers right now, so that's not to deny other people's walks of life and their struggles, but, like, yes, a lot of us do come from a lot of trauma, and you know what? We're lucky that to some degree that we do get this outlet, that we do get to come and be performers and make money in a way that we know how to. You know, I'm very grateful for that personally. And it took me a long time to get there, you know, kind of like Amy, but not as extreme. I've been in sex work since I was 18 years old. The first time I had ever stripped, I was 15 years old. But that's another story. And I was homeless. It took me off the streets. And I was pretty brainwashed to think at that age that, like, there wasn't going to be a lot of things that I could do in life because of the decisions that I had made without even realizing when I was a really young kid. I had gotten into a lot of trouble when I was a kid and had a couple of, I don't even think I should say it. I just got into a lot of trouble when I was a kid, and before I could even understand the gravity of the trouble I was in and how that would affect my adult life. I had no idea. I was like 13, 14 years old. I had no idea. And it was all actually lies. Until I was older, I didn't even figure out how to pull on my records. I don't even have any of that stuff on my records. But anyways, I thought when I was 18, not only was I homeless, but I thought I was fucked. I thought that I couldn't get a job. I didn't think that I was going to be able to work at the mall. I didn't think I was going to be able to work at a grocery store. Just like simple things I thought I wasn't going to be able to do. So my mind couldn't even fathom going to college and being able to have a career. I was like, if I can't even get a job at fucking Payless shoes, I'm not going to be able to fucking go to college and get a really good job because of my past. And so I ended up into stripping, and I did it for a really long time, and I still occasionally do it, but yeah, I mean, I feel lucky that I had a place where I could go, where I could make money to support myself. Because that's what I did. I went there, I made money, I got an apartment, I got off the streets, I got a car, I was able to buy myself, well, I bought myself braces before that, but, yeah, and then as I slowly maneuvered through the real world and got away from some toxic like family and just different things like that, and as I really got immersed into the real world as an adult, I started to wake up to the possibilities. And it was a slow, gradual journey of like waking up to finally one day waking up enough to where I realized that I could do and be anything that I wanted. Even if I thought that there was limitations, there's always a way. You might have to jump through 15 more hoops than the next person, but you keep finding those different hoops to jump through, and you can still get there no matter what it is that you want to do, and I do believe that. But a lot of people are stuck in the mindset of how I was before. They don't know that all these things are possible. So instead of like shaming people and saying like they're kind of fucked and we need to fix the next group of women or the next group of men that come out, the next generation, that's kind of just like shutting down the people of this generation, saying that things aren't real, like that love or whatever else just isn't possible for them, or good careers. Like, none of that is actually true. Anything is possible. You can do anything that you want to in life as long as you're willing to fight for it. So it might not look the same way as somebody who didn't do the things that you did. Their path may have went like this, and maybe your path is going to go like this. But I promise you, you can still get there. So don't believe those things. Don't believe what other people tell you. If you want something bad enough, just don't give up. You can get it. And I guess that's it for this video. Anyways, I don't know. Bye!